Locked on Syracuse is back, and we're trying to figure out what's what ahead of the 2022-2023 season for Syracuse basketball. It's what's more likely right here on Locked on Syracuse. Hit the button, Bones. Let's do it.
Are Locked on Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's Locked on Syracuse. I'm Brad Klein. He's Matt Bonaparte. We are your first listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Bones, it's the Brad Klein farewell tour right now for this week. This is my last week on Locked on Syracuse. One of the best episodes, or at least the most fun episodes that we've done together, was What's More Likely. It's been a while, and we have some fresh perspectives now, so it's time to run it back for Syracuse basketball. What's more likely? Are you ready?
I'm ready to go, man. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start it and just giving you two scenarios, and we're going to tell you what's more likely. If you disagree with us, just shoot us an email, and Bones, just throw up the email on the screen right now, and the email is losyracuse44@gmail.com. Mine is bradklein44@gmail.com. If you're interested in giving us some fan mail outside of losyracuse44, just wanted to brandish the 44 in my email. So there you go. All right, so that's the email. And also just tweet at us at LO_Syracuse if you disagree with Bones and agree with me. So we start here with the freshman versus, the returner. Chris Bunch starts over Benny Williams, or Benny is the second leading scorer to Joe Gerard. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Gerard will be the leading scorer because he is the guard, he is the senior, and he was darn near the leading scorer last season. Now he's in a role, potentially, that suits him better as the two guard rather than the one guard. And for me, I'm going to go with Benny being the second leading scorer to Joe Gerard. And the reason is because Benny has the tools, and he's had them all along. And last year we didn't see them. I'm expecting a huge step up. I don't actually think he's going to be the second leading scorer, but I do think that the first option is a little less plausible because I actually think they're going to start together. So for Chris Bunch to play himself out of a role, that's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, I think, the thing that I always, with Boeheim, is that, I always feel like he's partial to the guys who've been there before. So I think at the beginning of the year, at least, that's true. So he's going to want to start the guys who have been there. So it's kind of hard for me to say that Bunch is going to start over Benny, but at the same time, Bunch, huge recruit coming in. It could totally happen. And I see I see also that there's no way Benny's the second leading scorer. I mean, it's obviously Jesse Edwards, unless something happens to Jesse or Jesse really regresses. And I think we have one of those in here about that. I don't really see that happening. So I'm going to say that Bunch starts over Benny is more likely because I honestly think that Bunch is going to be a better player than Benny, but I probably would have said that this time last year about Benny compared to somebody else too. So who really knows?
Yeah, I get it. I just think that Chris Bunch and Benny Williams are going to play very well together. And Benny and Bunch are going to give that nice little mix of guy who's been here before, knows the zone, and Bunch is going to be what Benny was supposed to be, in that he's going to be a forward with a good first step, athletic, but also he can shoot. And that's the thing that Syracuse fans missed the most from the hype of Benny Williams going into last year compared to leaving last year or just in the dog days of the season, is that Benny couldn't shoot. And at times, he just couldn't be on the floor because he couldn't shoot. So Bunch, I think, is going to be better in that sense. And for that reason, they're going to have to play together so that Bunch can protect Benny as well from an X's and O's standpoint. And I'm going to go with Benny taking a big step up and being the second leading scorer. A lot of that is also predicated on him improving as a shooter, which kind of feels like has to happen at some point.
Yeah. So if Benny doesn't improve as a shooter, what is he, right? And the only time we ever saw him actually play well was the Duke game in the Dome, where Syracuse was getting just annihilated, and there was like no pressure. I mean, it was like, whatever. I mean, just go out there and play at this point. You're not going to win the game. And so Benny just went out there, and I felt like it was the first time he played with no pressure all season long. And he played really well in that game. Had some really nice, confident scoop layups, a reverse, I believe, in there. He had a nice block. I mean, he's got the tools. I just don't know
And
if they'll ever use them.
And I get that. I understand the apprehension there. We've both seen Benny Williams up close and personal. We've spoken to him. We understand who he is as a player, where he stands in the program. You look at him, and he is an athlete. He's a good athlete, and you have to like what you've seen from Benny Williams, at least from an ability standpoint. And I don't think he really needs to be a knockdown shooter at all. He just needs to be able to hit, I don't know, 25 to 30% of his threes just to keep the defense honest, right? And at that point, he can use that first step. So I'm going with Benny being the second leading scorer. I think there's a lot to like there. Let's move on here. Joe Gerard, an all ACC selection, or Jesse Edwards regressing to only averaging 5 points per game. Now, this is a tough one because Edwards was the most reliable player last year. So it's a little tough to believe that he's going to regress that drastically from his 12 points per game last season.
Yeah, I don't see that at all. I think this one's pretty cut and dry. For me, it's Gerard being an all ACC player, and he actually has the opportunity to do so because the offense is going to be Joe Gerard for a lot of this season, at least for the early part of it, I think, because he has no shooter like Buddy Boeheim in his way. He's just going to take every shot he wants, and I think that Boeheim's just kind of going to let him go. So if he converts a lot of those, it's going to be hard to keep him out of all ACC selection. And a lot of people love to hate on Joe Gerard, and I am guilty of it sometimes too, especially when he doesn't play well. But at the same time, when he plays well, he is one of the best players on the floor. And he had one of the best 3-point percentages in the ACC last season. So I don't know if there's that much bad you can say about the guy. And if he goes out there and he shoots that same percentage at a higher clip, I mean, he actually would have a shot at it. And I just don't see Jesse regressing that much.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I agree with you. I think Jesse actually could regress. I don't think he will, but he could. I mean, he was that good last year. So if he just, if he goes for 10-5 instead of 12-6.5, I don't think anyone's going to look at that and say, wow, well, Jesse Edwards is the biggest liability in college basketball. I can't believe this happened. What the heck, Jesse Edwards? No, they're going to say, okay, well, I was expecting a little bit more, but whatever. I think Joe Gerard could be an all-ACC selection. I mean, we left it open-ended. He doesn't have to be a first-teamer. He could make a second team, whatever. He's going to get the reps. This is his GMAC year, right? And the other thing is, I kind of feel the same way about Jesse Edwards. That's why I don't want to bet against Jesse Edwards to regress here. Because maybe even the better question is going to be, whose year is it? And not really a what's more likely, but is this a Joe Gerard year or is this a Jesse Edwards year? Because both have kind of earned it. Both have been 4-year warriors coming in the same class. Obviously, Gerard has played a lot more than Jesse Edwards because Edwards' first start came in his junior year, and that was last year. So he really didn't get to play much, but he was that good last year. And I feel like a lot of the offense at times is going to run through Jesse Edwards because for a big, he's a really good finisher, off the pick and roll especially. So Syracuse is going to look to him a lot more than other teams look to their bigs offensively. I'm going to have to go with Joe Gerard just because I think Jesse Edwards is going to be fed the rock a lot and put in a position to succeed.
Same. I'm right there with you.
All right, let's take a timeout here. Talking a lot about Syracuse basketball and Jesse Edwards' role in the team. His job is to be Jesse Edwards from last year. Your job is to find a good one with LinkedIn Jobs. And that's not a very difficult thing to do because you can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. As you gear up for the fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find people you want to talk to faster and for free. I can tell you from personal experiences, LinkedIn is the first place I go to look for a job. That's why it should be the first place that you go to post a job. You're the boss. You make the decisions. Make the smart one. Then add your job to the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, because that is the best way to get it to pop off the screen and make sure that people see it and are attracted to it. And then you get more applications, better applicants, and better professionals on your side. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. And I got to tell you, because I'm talking to my friends all the time, we're all post grad, and they're thinking, okay, how do I go about finding a job? The answer is LinkedIn Jobs. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free.
And we back. Matt Bonaparte, Brad Klein with you here on Locked On Syracuse. We're playing some What's More Likely for Syracuse basketball, and we continue. What's more likely? A starting backcourt is Torrance Mintz or Gerard Taylor. Here's my thing about this one. I think there's a chance it's Gerard Torrance.
Yeah.
And I almost think that's more likely than both of these.
I agree.
And I didn't really see that until this moment.
I think it is. I think you're right. I think it's Mintz, Gerard, 1-2. By the way, Torrance Taylor off the bench, not bad at all. I mean, it's really not bad at all. Torrance proved that he could be good enough. And then Justin Taylor is a very exciting player that a lot of people are pumped about. So for him to be off the bench in general, it's exciting.
I think I have to go Gerard Taylor here just because there's no shot Joe Gerard doesn't start. There's no chance.
I agree. But there's also, it's hard to see a world where Judah Mintz doesn't start.
I don't know. I could see that world. He's a freshman. Anything, it doesn't matter. You can be the number one player in the country. If Jim Boeheim doesn't like you, you don't start.
Yeah, I get it. I will say that it seems like there is a different vibe around Syracuse right now. I mean, yeah, Boeheim's still an old school guy, and he always will be an old school guy. But now, the times are changing a little bit for Jim Boeheim, and especially for Syracuse. They're starting to hint at maybe going away from the zone at times, blah, blah, blah. Boeheim is relying heavily on freshmen, and he's already acknowledged, he's already guaranteed that multiple freshmen are going to start. It seems hard for me to believe that one of them is not going to be Judah Mintz. I'm actually going to lean Torrance Mintz here. You're right. It's really tough to see a world where Joe Gerard doesn't start. But you know what? Symir Torrance is more likely, I should say this, Joe Gerard is more likely to play himself out of a position than Symir Torrance is. No, hold on. I understand what I'm saying, because we've seen Gerard play poorly before, and Boeheim still starts.
Boeheim loves Gerard.
Boeheim loves him. Boeheim is stuck with him time and time again. I understand that. But at the end of the day, the turnovers are going to be really difficult. And the thing is,
it doesn't matter. We've seen it all with Gerard. We've seen him be the worst player on the team. It does not matter. Boeheim's going to start him.
I understand that. But look at the two options on each side. So you have Torrance Mintz, Gerard Taylor. I understand what I'm saying. I get it. But who's your ball handler with Gerard Taylor?
Gerard.
Is that a problem? Could be.
It could be, but you're not realizing it doesn't matter. We're not talking about what we want. We're talking about what's more likely. It is likely that there's not a game that Gerard doesn't start.
Maybe. I understand. I get it. I think that you're more likely to have success with Torrance Mintz, so maybe that's where my heart is going. But you're right. Boeheim has stuck with Gerard time and time again, just through thick and thin. We saw the Pittsburgh game was just awful, and Gerard started the next time. And when he was asked about it, when Boeheim was asked about Joe Gerard, he looked at the media like they had 5 heads. So I get it.
Yeah.
But I would go Torrance Mintz if I had to choose one.
Oh, you're not coaching the team, are you, Klein?
No, I'm not. I'm not the Hall of Famer, and that's fine. But yeah, Torrance Mintz, Gerard Taylor. Neither one seem very likely. It's more likely Gerard or Mintz Gerard.
All right, we're moving on. Peter Carey, red shirts, or he plays more minutes than Mooney or Hema?
Red shirts. Peter Carey's going to
red shirts. Red shirts. It's the
Yeah.
only right answer.
See, and it's funny because no one really wants to see Mooney or Hema. I'm not trying to be a mean guy, but no one is excited
You're
for
being
Mooney or
rude to Mooney
Hema
or Hema, man.
from
Mooney or Hema's
Duquesne.
parents are pumped about him. I don't know what
Yeah,
you're talking
okay,
about.
fair enough. But everyone is more excited about the freshman, even if it's Peter Carey, even if he's not a 5-star, even if he wasn't ranked on 24/7 before Syracuse offered him. People want to see Peter Carey because he's the
You're talking
newer,
about a
fresher
guy
player.
who grew up in the same state as you, all right? You
Yeah,
can't be
yeah.
dogging Mooney or Hema this
No,
much.
I'm not trying to. He also went to the same prep school as Baramas Adibe. Fun fact. But I will say it's going to be Mooney or Hema. I mean, Boeheim didn't bring Hema in for no reason. He brought him in to play. I think if you ask me this question next year, obviously it wouldn't be a redshirt option, but like Peter Carey versus Mooney or Hema, it's Carey. But Carey's going to need 1 year to develop his body. Mooney or Hema is your bridge backup center. And I honestly think, and he has multiple years with the program, I honestly think that this is likely his first and last year actually playing
Who, for Moonier or Peter?
for Mooney or Hema. Peter
Oh,
Carey's
poor
going to
Moonier.
play his way into that backup role.
Yeah, I
But,
think
I mean, unless that's
they
assuming,
see something with Carey that not a lot of other people saw. Because don't forget in his recruitment that Carey was an unranked prospect,
yeah,
and then he got the old legendary coach recruits you, so you become a 3-star treatment. And that's exactly what happened when a bunch of teams started going in on him after Boeheim and crew did. Because Peter Carey was recruited, and Syracuse was one of the only teams in on him, and they were almost like hiding him away from everybody else. So I think they see a lot in him, and maybe he's going to be really good. But I think Carey redshirts this year. He's going to need a year.
yeah. I will say this though, and again, I do think Carey redshirts. Pretty confident on that. Mooney or Hema and Peter Carey are very different players. Hema's more of your true center, tall, will run the pick and roll, rebound, kick out, whatever. He's not creating his own shot. Peter Carey can shoot a little bit, and he can hit his mid-range jumpers at the very least. Right now, he's not a very reliable three-point shooter. Don't expect anything from him there, but he'll shoot on the elbow, and he'll shoot from within the arc. So watch out for that, and that's definitely something that Boeheim doesn't really have outside of Peter Carey. Then again, he really hasn't had that since, I mean, maybe Tyler Lydon, right? So again, I do think it's going to be Peter Carey as a redshirt, but when he hits the floor, look out for that. You have to respect his shot.
Don't forget about that one season where Marek was just like hitting threes left and right. That
Yeah, it
happened.
kind of was, and it was his early in his career too.
2018-19. He
Yeah,
shot 38 from 3 that year.
dude, people were like, "Oh, so he's just Porzingis, right?" And then he
Goat.
just wasn't.
That was like the one year he didn't start like any games.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
So look out.
Um,
I'm excited for Peter Carey because I think there's more about him than we don't know than we do, and that's fun.
okay. Well, let's move on. But before we do, I'm going to read you a little ad here. Uh, Listen, these guys, Peter Carey's going to have to redshirt and build up his body, and maybe he does it by eating a bunch of Built Bars. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. They got a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories and have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to built.com to snag a box for you and the family. It will be the perfect treat. Or you can find a really good hiding place and just hoard them for yourself, Brad. Like all Built Bars, the new cookie dough chunk puff is covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they're healthy and tasty. Chocolate covered cookie dough with a light, fluffy texture. So good. What's great about Built is that all of their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or you just need to grab a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built Bar and go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15.
All right, so we're here. We're talking about what's more likely ahead of the 2022-2023 season for Syracuse basketball. We move on now. We talk a little bit about Justin Taylor earlier. Let's do it again. Justin Taylor, what's more likely for him to be a top 3 scorer on the team or Symir Torrance to start 15 games? Bones, I defer to you.
Taylor's top 3 scorer more likely than Torrance being.
I'll answer for you while you think.
No, I'm thinking. Hold on. Give me a second. Because here's what my thinking, my process here is. Torrance in that Duke game was really good.
It was fantastic.
Now, and I think a lot of people at home right now are probably like, you're getting caught up on the Duke game. Don't get caught up on that. Judah Mintz is the real deal. What if Boeheim wants to just isolate Joe Gerard every game? Doesn't mean he plays more minutes than Judah Mintz. Just means he starts. And he goes out there and he just facilitates. He doesn't necessarily want 2 shooters out there. If Joe Gerard plays so well when he doesn't have to create and he can just walk around the court, run around and find a shot, that worked a lot last season or worked a lot in that Duke game. They just didn't do it very often. I don't know if that's what I prefer, but I don't think Justin Taylor. I don't know. I think there's a good chance Chris Bunch outscores Justin Taylor. Also, that says Tayor. I'm going to fix that real quick.
About to happen, I guess. But okay. So I understand what your point here, but I'm going to go Justin Taylor being a top 3 scorer, Justin Tayor elite scorer, because, and I understand the apprehension, like maybe Chris Bunch outshoots him, outscores him, but outside of Joe and Jesse, who the next best scorer is so debatable. And a lot of people are just going to assume that it's Judah Mintz, which is a fine assumption. But the fact that you can debate it is fine. That makes it legit. But whereas Symir Torrance, you're looking at, like, I think Taylor has a better chance to start over Torrance. And I think Mintz has a better chance to start over Torrance.
And I mean, at the end of the day, we don't really know we can talk about it all we want. We don't know what the lineup's going to look like.
No,
we don't even know if he's going to play Taylor at the 2. He could play Taylor at the 3.
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's one of the other reasons that I like Taylor as a top 3 scorer is that he has more versatility, more paths on the court than Symir Torrance does. And with Joe Gerard playing, you would assume, I don't know, close to 40 minutes a game like he did last year, it's hard to say that he's going to start 15 games with how much hype there is around Judah Mintz and even Justin Taylor. I think that Taylor is going to get a lot of points off the bench, even if he doesn't start, and I like Taylor as the top 3 scorer.
All right, well, we got to move along.
So, okay, next one. Let's see. Did Justin Taylor. Let's hit the recruiting trail real quick. JP Estrella commits to Syracuse, or Reed Ducharme does? What's more likely? Now, Estrella coming up later this week on Friday. We're going to have an interview with him, a one-on-one exclusive. It's going to be while he's on his
2-on-1.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You're right. 2-on-1. Well, maybe if Bones just leaves, three's a crowd, and it could just be me and JP. That'd be fine, too. All right, fine. 2-on-1 and exclusive. And it's going to be on his.
Klein's trying to get me out of here, man.
So Ducharme or Estrella? I'm going to go with Ducharme here. I don't know about you.
I'm going Estrella.
Okay. So the reason I'm going with Ducharme is that Estrella has better options.
He has one other good option. Ducharme has 2.
Well, okay. So Ducharme's top 3 is down to Penn State, Xavier, and Syracuse. I honestly don't know what any of those schools have over Syracuse.
Xavier has a lot to offer Ducharme. Okay, they're a program that has been a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament more recently than Syracuse has, and he has the opportunity. Ducharme has the opportunity to go to Xavier and be the face of an era there. He doesn't have that opportunity at Syracuse. He doesn't even know if he's going to start at Syracuse in a really crowded guard room. So I think I'm going to go to Estrella.
Okay. Yeah, and JP, it seems like Syracuse and Iowa are two of the front runners. He's taking an Iowa visit soon, and
Maybe we
obviously,
asked this question to JP. He'd be shook.
oh, he'd be rattled. Well, I actually happen to think that they're both going to go to Syracuse, but I think that Ducharme is more likely to go because Iowa has a very legit chance of landing Estrella. Very, very legit. And
Don't go to Iowa.
and
What's in
Estrella has
Iowa?
some really good
Corn?
offers. I mean, let's face it, he has better offers than Ducharme. Like, he already essentially turned down Duke by canceling the visit. But there are other schools in on him. I mean, Kansas is interested, and anytime Bill Self
I
picks
think
up the
it
phone,
is a 2-horse race for
okay,
JP Estrella. It is
yeah,
Syracuse and Iowa. And Syracuse, I think, is going to come out on top.
I like Ducharme. All right, go ahead, take us to the next one.
Okay. Malik Brown is the first forward off the bench, or John Bol Ajak is. This is actually a really good question. You're going to go Malik Brown. But then you go, hold on. John Bol Ajak was the only guy who played well against Duke.
Yeah. Hey, Bones, you're putting too much stock into the Duke game. What are you doing?
I'm just saying.
So,
JBA, man, he's not a world beater. He's not going to score. He's going to take bad shots, but he's our king, and we love him. He's kind of like the fan favorite. He's John B. How could you not love him? Malik
the thing
Brown,
that you
probably the first forward off the bench, but I could see Boeheim using. Okay, this is what I think. Boeheim's going to use John Bol Ajak more than he did last year, but Malik Brown's still the first forward off the bench. So I go Malik.
okay? All right, I'm gonna lean John Bull here, and it's not just because he's John Bull Ajak and everyone loves him. It's because you think about what Syracuse is likely going to have in their starting rotation, and then what they need from their starters. So, Chris Bunch, Benny Williams are probably the two forwards, right? And Benny was a fine, okay forward defensively, but he was still learning the zone, and he has the athleticism for sure to play a really good wing of the zone defensive forward, so assuming they stick with the zone for most of the time. Bunch, I think, is going to struggle defensively, and John Bolajok was the best defensive forward on this team last year. Not a crazy thing to say. It's true. So I think out of necessity, it's going to be John Bull.
Hold on. 1 sec. I was going to put a John Bull Jacques overlay on the screen, but it won't load. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still going Malik. I go Malik
All
here.
right. That's fine. I'll take you to the next one here. And this is our last one, too. What's more likely? Syracuse has 5 double-digit scorers or 2 15-plus point scorers. So is it going to be a balanced scoring attack, or is it top-heavy? I think it's probably balanced because they have a lot of options. We don't know who their best options are, but I think you have so many, like Judah Mintz is going to demand the ball. Justin Taylor is going to get his shots. Chris Bunch looks like he's going to be a legit cornerstone of the starting lineup as well. So I don't know if there's enough touches to go around, considering this team's going to rely so heavily on freshmen. So I think it's going to be the 5 double-digit scorers.
This pretty much boils down to, do you think Jesse Edwards can score 15 points a game? Because
Yeah,
Joe Gerard is going to.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it takes him 35 shots. He's going to score 15 a game. So do you think Jesse Edwards can do the same is the question. I think he can. The crazy part is, like, I think this could be both. I think they could have 2 15-point scores and also have double-digit scores.
Yeah, it could. I lean
it's all
more
dependent
balanced.
on, like, do you think that 3 of the freshmen can score double digits?
Yeah, I do.
Mintz, Taylor, and Bunch. That's your.
I
That's
think
your
they
3.
can. I think they can.
I
The
don't think they
reason
will,
being,
though.
I'd
I'm going to
imagine
go
that the
15-point scores.
I'd imagine that the ball is going to move more freely this year than it did last year because you're actually going to have a point guard playing point guard instead of Joe Gerard playing point guard. So you'd have to imagine that people get more touches that way and better looks. So yeah, I think it's going to be 5 double-digit scores. More so than I do 2 15-plus point scores. Yeah.
I think the opposite. I think that there is no way that all 3 of those freshmen are going to hit that 10-point mark every single game.
All right.
So I'm going to go 15-point scores, Gerard and Edwards.
Let's let the fans be the tiebreaker there. At LO_Syracuse, tweet at us if you agree with me, and if you disagree, then I don't know, stay home. Get more on the ACC by making Locked On ACC your second listen every day. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the ACC in 30 minutes. Again, make Locked On ACC your second listen every day. That's Locked On ACC with Candace Cooper. Bones and Brad back at it tomorrow. Locked On Syracuse farewell tour for Brad Klein continues mañana.